Ba-bum.
Hi. Hello, cheese bags. Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
How are you?
Oh, good, good.
Cold.
I'm Gouda,
Oh,
life's Buddhist.
The goodest. We are meeting via Zoom this week because the weather outside sucks.
Frightful.
garbage.
It is
It's
frightful. It's downright scary.
fidgeting.
It's hot garbage. Okay, anyway. It's
Speaking of
fucking
garbage,
cold. Cold garbage. It's ice cube garbage. And
it's
we weren't leaving our Mojo Dojo Casa houses.
yeah, we're
Ah,
all playing it safe and didn't want to do the travel game, and all in our comfortable places. Everybody has a Gouda logo, but me. That's fine. It's I'm just technically challenged as the resident senior of the group, so that checks out.
Grandmother,
Yeah.
15 years old.
Yeah.
All right, so we are taking our stories to Rockford, Illinois this week. Yay.
Yeah. Because when the reason why that was is because I just recently moved. I would say moved into the Rockford area. So I thought, what better way to kind of christen the move is just try, find some true crime and cheese that goes along with it. So I'm super excited.
Yeah, Kelly's living in the hood.
Living in the
Yeah,
hood in the Rockfordian area. Not really, but
I'm just
there's
kidding.
a lot of crime. I know there's a lot of crime here. So I figured,
She's safe.
perfect. I need to know.
Oh,
I need to know what I'm up against. No, just kidding.
get those knuckles out.
Yeah, exactly.
You need those little. Have you seen the keychains? They're like a cat. Those
Yeah,
little
yes.
I actually have one of those.
Oh,
Not Twinkies, but never know.
anyway, so yes, Rockford and Keely always finds her story before me because I procrastinate habitually. I'm terrible about it. Anyway, she
No.
What?
got she
No.
got a good story. I had to do some digging, so I have a couple little ones for everybody,
Yeah.
and both of them have been reported on or retold by a woman named Kathy Kressel. She's a librarian in Rockford, and she has written a book, and it's called Murder and Mayhem in Rockford, Illinois, and it has just a whole bunch. It's like an anthology sort of sorts, I suppose.
Mhm.
But anyway, these two stories I'm gonna tell you about, she wrote about. So let us begin. The first one is called The Torch Murder of 1933.
The
Oh.
torch.
The Torch Murder.
Okay.
Uh, August 13th, 1933. Earl Hansen, also referred to as Ed later on in the article, he and his 12-year-old daughter, June, went to church and to the theater and then went back to her mother's home at 9 o'clock in the evening. He and his wife, May, had gotten divorced. They had two daughters. June was born in 1922 and Doris was born in 1923. Doris had developmental disabilities and they put her in an institution. Um, but anyway, so that August night that they finished doing what they were doing, daddy daughter date, they came home
Mhm.
and June got out of the car and ran up to the house to go say, "Hey, mom, I'm home." And
Right.
but her mom, she couldn't find mom, and comes back to the door and sees a like bright light. And her worst nightmare, her dad is on fire.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh.
So
Oh,
poor Ed is, rolling around on the ground in flames. She's screaming for help. The neighbors start running over to try to extinguish the fire, but of course, by the time they get it extinguished, it's too late. The poor man died from, I don't know, burns, shock, pain, all of the above.
for
Uh,
shock. Yeah.
Yeah.
Burn shock. Like I don't know exactly how. I'm
It was the
guessing.
actual end all be all, but yeah, being on fire probably would do that to you.
Yeah. So he passed away. Of course, the first suspect. Well, actually, they had no suspects right off the bat. The only
Right.
thing they knew was that there was a little porcelain bowl laying in near the scene, and gas was most likely the accelerant.
Oh, so
Uh, so
so it was like,
May, yeah, so May, the wife, she was interviewed and she said she was in the basement and she saw a flash of light and came running. And she ran to the car to see if her daughter was in there. Okay, that was her story.
yeah.
Said she did have gasoline. She did own the gas can, and the reason she had it was because she was trying to get her own vehicle to start because it wasn't running at the time. The porcelain bowl was hers, but she didn't know how it got out there because she had used it to water her chickens earlier in the day. So they were at a loss until Ed's coworker came to the police with a note.
And
Apparently, May apparently wrote a very what's the word? Angry letter to her ex-husband saying how much she hated him and essentially threatened to kill him in it.
hmm.
And so Ed's like, well, I'm scared.
Yeah.
Here you go. Friend, can you hold on to this? And if something ever happens to me, let the cops know. It was
That's
probably
so,
my
I don't know if I would think about doing that, like giving my like threatening note to somebody else. I don't like,
I apparently he was truly afraid of her. And it was a good thing he did give it to him because that was the only reason she got caught. She had her eyebrows were singed
it's
in
like,
her
no,
hair.
no, policeman, it wasn't me. As they're like still like,
Well,
they're like,
so,
no, have on.
mm-mm. So the
Like
reason,
you can still smell the smoking eyebrow.
well, she said the reason that she got singed is because she got close to the car to see if her daughter was inside. So that was part
Oh,
of her story. But anyway, so yeah, they eventually arrested her, but they could not believe that a tiny woman like her could kill her husband in such a gruesome way. And
was he like a big guy? Did you ever hear like how like his stature, like it was like a six, what? Like I mean,
no, they didn't describe how tall or hefty he was. They said was he was 41, so he's not
so
super
yeah,
old.
right.
Yeah.
But like at like I said at full growth age, like what you're done growing
Yeah.
at, like
I mean,
18.
he's like
So
probably
he was fully grown. He was big. He
I
was
don't
all
know.
grown.
I'm picturing dad bod,
Yeah,
full grown
grown up dad.
dad.
All right.
um yeah, so the trial lasted 11 days and had 39 witnesses. But her daughter defended her. Did not believe she did it, and she was
Denial.
sentenced to 14 years in prison and was transferred to Dwight's Correctional Center in 1934. So let's see. Oh, June was then raised by her aunt who lived in oh no, she moved to Vermont eventually and passed away in 1994. The other sister, Doris, ended up passing away in an institution in 1940, which is
Oh,
pretty sad to think of because, one parent is dead, the other's in prison who's coming to visit.
yeah.
That's pretty sad for Doris. And she only lived to be 17. So,
Oh, wow.
but yeah, that is the torch murder of 1933. And oh, by the way, Kathy Kressel, this was an article in her um what's it called? Column? Like
Mm-hmm.
this it's called Voices from the Grave. She
Oh,
yeah,
chilling.
the Rock River Times.
Robert. Okay.
Mhm. So
Dang.
that's one
Yeah.
of my little
He
that's one
basically just like up gasoline and lit them on fire and like, oop, it wasn't me. Even though like her eyebrows are half off and little daughter girl was like, no, my mom would never have done that. But like, isn't that? I don't know. I don't know. That's crazy. Also, it's
um
the too. So that's I feel like that's even I don't know, like in 30, like 30s, I don't feel or like think of like things being that like insane, but it happens at any fucking
well
time.
that's one thing I read. I don't know if I kept Well, so a 2016 article from what is this one? 23 WIFR, a news station up there.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, they were talking about the author Kathy and said
Mm-hmm.
that she researches most of the surprising and gruesome crimes that happened during the Prohibition and not long after, because you wouldn't think back to that time as being as bad as it is today, but it was
Right.
actually,
Yes.
they had a
Damn.
lot going on.
Damn.
So on that note, I will go ahead and talk about real quickly because I know being on Zoom kind of limits our recording abilities.
Yeah, it says right now there's 7 minutes left for this recording.
Okay.
Cool.
Shall we do a cheese break?
Thank you, cheese bags. We're now going to dive into our cheese break after some of our, technical situations. I don't know. This is going great, you guys. I love it. Love it. Love the virtual meetings. I feel like it's 2020 all over again. Love it. So because we are in Rockford, I wanted to try and find a Rockford-esque a cheese, which I kind of did a play on words. So I did more like an homage to Rockford. I found a Roquefort, which is a type of blue cheese. It's spelled Roqueufort. It is a blue cheese that I kind of dived into, and because Rockford, Illinois, I didn't want to do like an Illinois cheese, but Rockford, Illinois itself doesn't necessarily have a popular cheese, but I thought this play on words would kind of be interesting. And so in my cheese search, I found that there is a Rockford cheese shop. It's not in Illinois. It's in Michigan. However, I thought it was really cool. It's Rockford, Michigan. But I thought if you look it up, Rockford Cheese Shop, they have a neon sign that says the Gouda Life. And I thought that was like, oh, I love that. Like, how cool that would have been if it had been in Rockford, Illinois. I'm like, oh, amazing. I was so excited. And I'm like, this is not local at all.
We need to go on a road trip then.
Yeah, we'll have to go on a road trip. But in my cheese search, I did find, because there unfortunately isn't any cheese shops, specialty cheese shops in Rockford itself. I did like top 10 cheese shops near Rockford, Illinois. You're going to be, of course, like a lot of them are going to be in Wisconsin. So we have like Geneva, Wisconsin, Monroe, Wisconsin, Broadhead, and there's like a few in like Davis, Illinois. All of them are Gouda, Wisconsin. All are within like, anywhere from like a half hour to an hour away. So that could be something that, take a nice cheese search day and I can check those out. Obviously just with the weather as it is, we got like, like 8 inches of snow here. Roads were not ideal. So didn't do that, but I have a list of them here that we'll be able to go and look into. So anyway, but for the Roquefort cheese, like I said, it is a French cheese. It's made from sheep's milk from the southern part of France. And according to European law, it dictates like Roquefort cheese is only like kind of similar to like how we were in Kentucky, like only like bourbon or Kentucky bourbon is only a type of whiskey that's made in Kentucky. Roquefort cheese is a blue cheese that only is considered a Roquefort if it's processed and made within this southern France region. It's made in it's an aged cheese naturally made in the Camboulou caves of Roquefort, which again, southern part of France. So it is a type of blue cheese. This cheese is white, tangy, creamy, and slightly moist, with veins of blue mold. It has characteristics and flavors kind of due to its butyric acid, which Greek translates like a butter acid, which has like an oily, colorless liquid and an unpleasant odor. So kind of like on par with most blue cheeses. It has, of course, that provides like a sharp tang. This cheese does not have a rind, so the exterior is edible and slightly salty. It's created typically in a wheel, anywhere from 6 to 7 pounds or 2.5 to 3 kilograms. And it's usually about like 10 centimeters or like 4 inches thick. So like, cheese is like as big as my face, sort of thing. I love it. According to legend, Roquefort cheese was discovered when a youth, and this article said a youth, not even like a young man or anything, but just a youth, was eating his lunch of bread and ewe cheese, which I thought was also really funny because those sheeps are also, considered ewes, EWES. So ewe, milk, cheese, and saw a beautiful girl in the distance. Abandoning his meal in a nearby cave, he ran to meet with her. When he returned a few months later, which again, I'm like, how, like,
out in a cave.
that one time I saw you, and I think that's like, what kind of sort of like ADH brain is that? Or like, I saw this pretty girl, and like a few months later, oh yeah, by the way, I left my lunch there. I should probably go and pick that back up.
I don't get that. It was a
Yeah.
really good sandwich. I don't want to go to waste.
Yeah, like I really was enjoying that 4 months ago. I wonder if it's still there. So a few months later, the mold or the penicillin Rockfordi had transformed his plain cheese into a animal scurries. Had made his plain cheese into a Roquefort blue cheese. So I think that's the romantic version of how this Roquefort was discovered. Some young youth man saw a pretty lady, ran to see her, and then 4 months later came back to take his lunch back. I don't know, but so with this cheese, it is non-pasteurized. So Roquefort with the FDA bans American Food and Drug Administration actually bans most French cheeses such as Roquefort, because it's unpasteurized process, which is unfortunate. The reason why they do that is because most unpasteurized, foods such as cheeses have a higher content or chances of having E. coli and other harmful bacteria, which it's a small amount, but too much that Americans want over here. So because unfortunately Roquefort is not really available in the States, because again, it has to be a cheese actually made from those southern France regions, similar to a bourbon is only made in areas in Kentucky. I had kind of looking up similar blue cheeses that are on the same par, but more available to us here in the States, which is a Gorgonzola. So I went ahead and I don't know if I can flip my screen, but I got a Gorgonzola. You can see that lovely little, my cheese cleaver. It's lovely, isn't it? It's beautiful. So I got a hold of this buttermilk blue cheese, which with Gorgonzola, it is the closest cheese similar to Roquefort's, because of its palate, its consistency, and overall flavor content. So I did that. We're gonna imagine I'm eating a Roquefort, even though I'm eating a Gorgonzola. How do French usually eat the Roquefort is with a hunk of the Roquefort cheese with some bread and figs. This combination of a sweet or with the cheese and or the fruit or bread, or you can even pair it with a sweet or rich sweet wine with ripe fruit. Just kind of overall, it kind of has a good balance of salty, creamy cheese, and it's a cheese sensation. It's delicious. So I do also have some hunks of bread, and I have the strawberries, of course. I don't have the figs, but I thought strawberries would be really super sweet. And I also, was thinking another flavor I was also in my cheese search. This type of cheese pairs really well with potato chips.
Yum.
So I was gonna do a pairing with this cheese and some potato chips. Also because that's kind of how I was gonna tie into Rockford, because Rockford is known for making Mrs. Fisher's potato chips. It is a local brand of potato chips here made in Rockford. You can only buy them within this area. Or close to it, because again, it's so locally owned. And another fun fact, I actually where I now live is close to throwing distance of this Mrs. Fisher's potato chips factory. So they're locally made since 1932. It was founded by an Ethel and Eugene Fisher. they started making homemade potato chips out of their house and selling them. And then after, originally it was called Mr. Potato Chips or Mr. Fisher's, but then Eugene was a kind of a dickhead and left Ethel during the Depression, so she decided, fuck you, I'm going to rename it Mrs. Fisher's. And since then, she's been keeping Fisher's a locally owned and locally made potato chip ever since then. It's not like a family owned business anymore. However, within this business, they've always kept it employee owned, and so it basically gets passed down or handed down to an employee after so and so retires. And so since the 30s, there's only been 3 previous owners or of this factory, because they keep it locally and employee owned, which is really cool. I thought that was kind of interesting. So anyway, back to the cheese and pairing with the potato chips. The reason why this chip and cheese pairing is supposed to be so good is because the amount of fat in the cheese complements well with the saltiness of the potato chip. Most sheep's milk cheeses have like a really high fatty content because of the type of milk it is, which adds to its richness. And a simple saltiness of a chip works well, cutting through the fat and brings out the flavor and contrast of the cheese. So I'm going to do that. So I'm going to get a fresh bag of these hot babies. All right, cool. Yeah. And I always loved Mrs. Fisher's because growing up, we would always get them and like we take them to like family events, like, in my family who live in Wisconsin who can't get Fisher's, you can buy them literally by the gallon drum, or like 10 gallon buckets or like 2-gallon buckets full from the factory. And it's like a total thing. Like they sell them in like buckets. I love it because it's such a big deal. So I'm going to do my big chip and my cheese. You can see the lovely blue veininess of it. It's going to be super delicious and tangy, and the saltiness of the chip. You guys are super excited. Yeah, good job. I know you guys are really missing out on being able to taste this, but here we go.
I'm half tempted to run to the fridge and get the blue cheese crumbles that I have.
You won't.
This is good. This is really good. Okay, so.
How's that carrot feeling?
So good.
Yeah, I imagine it. It's so creamy. So yeah, so this cheese, like I said, already has a creaminess to it, and with it being a blue cheese, it does have like a little bit of tang. The cheese itself is already a little salty, but paired with the salty potato chip, like I always like a crunch with my food. So like any sort of creamy, like putting potato chips in your sandwiches or like you're on your burgers. Like I'm that person. I'll always put like chips in something if I can, just for that extra crunch. But this is a really good flavor. This is a good flavor pairing. Like I'm gonna give it another big chip.
Fun fact: you said that cheese is high in butyric acid, right?
Yep.
That is a fatty acid that's created when good bacteria break down dietary fiber in your gut.
Mm-hmm. So it's also like an interesting thing. So, seems that this is not technically Rockford, but it's basically the closest thing you can get within the States that is like it. I did kind of look up, like, the similarities and differences between, like a Gorgonzola and a Rockford. Oh, there's my cheese. That's fine. And like, some of the things like, so the Roquefort is made in southern France. Gorgonzola is like famously known and made in like northern Italy. However, they're both types of blue cheese. They both have like, so the blue vining, the molding. Roqueforts are usually aged anywhere from 90 days or more, whereas like a Gorgonzola, it has like a max aging of 90. So the Roqueforts will have a little bit more of a bite to them, because they are aged longer. This specific blue cheese that I got was aged, I think it said 60 days on the packaging, I believe, but I'm misreading that. I think it was like another cheese that I had in my fridge, so that's no big surprise.
Is that Buddy?
Yeah. Yeah, it's fine. You're doing great.
Funny when
but both these types of cheeses have, again, like you're saying, a higher fat content, but there's evidence because of the type of fat that's in here, like you were saying, the lipolysed fats do not build up in people's arteries as much. So it's like a good fat. It doesn't build up in your arteries. Because it's high in protein. It's also high in phosphorus and calcium, which is really good for your bones. So you know what? I'm taking care of my body. I'm eating the blue cheese. I'm building strong muscles and strong bones while eating the blue cheese.
There you go.
It's good for colon health, apparently.
Yeah, exactly. I'm doing my body well by eating this cheese pairing. Maybe not the potato chips, but I'm locally sourcing the chips and I'm getting as local as I can with the type of cheese. But back to this flavor content. Okay, so I got the crunch, which is great. I really taste the chip, and the saltiness of the chip kind of takes away the bite of, or what you normally consider, like you think of with a blue cheese. And so when I'm eating this, it kind of like makes the cheese I taste more of the creaminess of the cheese versus the blue cheese bite because the potato chip is bringing in that saltiness. So I would definitely suggest, if anybody is looking for an interesting pairing, blue cheese, gorgonzola, or like a soft, like I would, of course, a block cheese because it's easier to kind of grab. Or you could just do the crumbly and just like kind of scoop it, get like a bottle of that crumbly stuff and then, do it as your own dip. I don't know, but this is a good pairing. I'm happy with it. I'll try for old fashioned sake. I'll try it with a hunk of bread too.
There you go.
A bread hunk for the historic steak, like this kid was doing before his lunch of bread and Ewe's milk cheese. So this is what he was gnawing on. I don't know what the state of bread was when he came back to it, but the cheese apparently,
Everything was a high penicillin content when he came back.
That man was not getting sick the rest of that year.
For life.
It's good. Yeah, so this cheese, again, because not gorgonzola, but I wrote down somewhere in my t-shirts here that usually like gorgonzola, a difference between gorgonzola and the Rockford cheese. The gorgonzola cheese is molded, or the mold, or the bacteria that's introduced is actually added into it. So the penicillium bacteria is actually added into the cheese to create its blue vines, versus the Rockford cheese is naturally occurring because of the caves that it's aged in. So the caves at dense and like humid atmosphere actually creates that bacteria normally or naturally, giving them to a different kind of like flavor context. However, on this back of this cheese, it says ingredients: cultured pasteurized milk, so it's pasteurized, salt, enzymes, penicillin, Rockfordy. It actually has the type of Rockfordy penicillin that's in normal unpasteurized Rockfordy cheese in this cheese. So it's very, very close to a Rockford. I thought it was really nice. I would like, you could probably, I know it's probably all backwards, but it says right there, Rockfordy, penicillin, Rockfordy. Yeah. Anyway, the bread hunk is also good. I can definitely taste the creaminess of it. I'm enjoying it. I'm sad that you guys aren't here to actually partake, but trust me when I say, listeners, this is good. Viewers, you can see me just hunking down on it.
She's probably whatever.
Yeah, I'm not actually eating it. This is all digitally mastered. Me stuffing my face.
This is all AI.
That's my cheese bags, and I'll let Kota go back into another historic crime event of Rockford.
Fantastic. Thank you. So, on to my second little story. My first one was about a man being burnt to death in 1933 by his angry ex-wife.
Burn him at the stake.
This next one is about a Rockford High School teacher whose friends become worried about her because they don't hear from her. And this one's from 1929. So,
all right, another oldie but a goodie. Sorry if I guys put you on or put myself on mute every once in a while. The dogs are just wanting to be involved, so I'm just I'm listening. If anything, you'll just hear me like And it'll be, actually muted though. Okay,
That was
anyway,
really
continue.
good,
I'm
though.
sorry. Go ahead.
It was good. Okay, so by the same author as last time, Miss Kathy Kressel, and it was Kressel. She originally published this in the Rock River Times, like the other story, but this one
Okay.
is the unsolved murder of Cordelia Gummersheimer.
Huh?
Gummersheimer.
Gummersheimer. Who's a
Gummersheimer.
Gummersheimer?
Cordelia Gummersheimer. I don't know.
Sure.
Gummer.
Gummersheimer? Okay.
Gummersheimer. Jingleheimer Schmidt.
Yeah, Gummerheimer Schmidt, yeah. That's my name too.
This is why we can't have nice things.
Absolutely. Squirrel. I'm not loving this angle. Sorry.
Damn,
Okay.
girl, look at them boob.
Mm,
Look at my what?
That boob.
that
Wait.
boob.
I don't know.
It's because they nothing. No bites. No, okay. Anywho, so Cordelia Gummersheimer was a Rockford high school teacher. I'm sorry, that's just funny to say.
Gummersheimer.
Gummersheimer. She was a Rockford high school teacher, also with two other teachers, Sarah Burr and Marie Dobbins, that she was friends with, and they had made plans to go to dinner on Sunday, December 8th, 1929. They knew she was busy. She taught in the language department of the high school. She also tutored students and worked as an interpreter for local businessmen who dealt with foreign countries.
Okay.
She was fluent in several languages. She wasn't originally from Rockford, but she had been teaching at the high school for 8 years, so since 1921.
Okay.
She grew up in Belleville, Illinois, and attended Knox College in Galesburg. 1916, she moved to Puerto Rico to teach languages there. During the summer months, she attended the University of Wisconsin, where she worked on her master's degree. She took studies and teaching very seriously, as she was well liked by her students and her coworkers. She was also known to be a free spirit, and she loved adventure.
That means, AKA, she had a wild side.
Yeah. So it says she put her studies on hold during the summer of 28 because she traveled with a tour group to Cuba to act as an interpreter.
Cool.
Yeah, so she was very well traveled. So she seemed pretty fearless. She lived on her own. She didn't worry about living by herself. She lived in the Great Way Apartments on West State Street. I don't know. I forgot to look that up where that is now, if that's a good part of town, but I also don't know which parts of town are good parts of town.
Yeah. East State Street is like the main street that goes like all the way to like one end of Rockford, where you have like all your shopping and like Target and Kohl's, and it's like, just whatever, like full shopping plazas, all the way down to like State Street, like through original downtown Rockford, and then like some rougher areas. Not all rougher areas, but like, yeah.
Which makes sense. So back then we've been the original downtown area-ish,
Yeah.
I'm assuming. But she lived in her apartment by herself, and she liked to sleep with the window open, which was very dangerous because
That's the number one rule.
Yeah.
Well, her back porch had stairs that led to the street. So like, hey,
Right.
Come
Come
on
on in.
so
You got 1 and 2 marks already. Back door close to the street entry, and you sleep with the window open. You're already two strikes, woman.
Yep, her friends told her not to do it.
Damn
So
it.
anyway, they didn't hear from her
love
late
adventure.
afternoon on Sunday, December 8th. Those two friends that she worked with were concerned. So they decided to go to get in contact with another teacher that they worked with who also lived in the same building.
Okay.
That woman, Alice Walker, let them in, and the three of them went to go check on Cordelia. They didn't get an answer when they knocked, so they decided to go around the building and go to the back porch, and of course her window was cracked, so they went to the window and
To the wall.
To the sweat. Dropped.
Drop down her ball. Anyway, they went to her window.
They peered through her window and they saw their worst fear. Cordelia was lying across her bed, dressed in her nightgown and her head in a pool of blood.
Mm.
Mhm. They called the police, the sheriff's department, the coroner, Walter Julian, and state attorney William D. Knight arrived.
Mhm.
This was the beginning of the most baffling investigation ever conducted in Winnebago County. To this day, they still do not know who did it.
Oh,
There was no motive determined on the scene. She was not sexually assaulted. She still had her engagement ring on, so which
wow.
her backstory or who she was engaged to.
Mhm.
Obviously, he was ruled out because nobody was arrested.
Right.
Nothing was taken. All of her valuables were still there, so robbery wasn't a motive.
That's insane.
They believe that the pipe used as the murder weapon was found in a box outside of a plumbing shop that was to the rear of her apartment building.
So like something out of convenience.
Yep. So whoever did it was probably already on their way up there. Was like, I'm
Yeah.
kill, or
I'm finna find out who I'm gonna kill, but I'm gonna kill somebody.
right,
Right.
or they knew they were going for her, and they were like, "This is what I'm going to use."
Yeah. Oh my God.
They found it on the way, so they grabbed the pipe, they climbed the stairs, they opened the window, and she was already asleep. So they hit her 3 times
Mm.
in the head, once above the right eye, and 2 by her ear.
So it's like beating her, like on the head.
They beat her while she was asleep, and then by the time they found her, she had already been dead for 12 to 13 hours.
That's insane.
Wow.
Yep. The neighbors that were interviewed said they heard no noises or saw anything suspicious. So for decades, they said that they continued to work on the case. They found nothing. Her brother came from Belleville to take her to lay her to rest in their family cemetery, their Walnut Hill Cemetery.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Dang.
they looked at scenarios to see if she had any stalkers. One, what would they call it? One of the things they played out was they thought maybe a woman killed her. Like,
Oh.
Cordelia stole my man.
Oh shit.
But obviously never found anybody because it still goes on.
Right. Dang.
Been
Like
over-
a blitz attack or something like that.
Mm.
Yeah, could.
I don't know.
Dang.
You know, maybe it was just some random who was just like, I feel like killing somebody today. That window's open.
There's a lot of randoms around here. I'll say, yep, that's a thing.
Oh.
Oh. And it is in the 20s also, but I mean, still a lot of randos still lurking around here, these Rockford parts.
Fair. I
City.
get it.
I do.
Dang.
I hit something. But yeah, you can read more stories like this on hauntedrockford.com.
HauntedRockford.com. Okay, cool. Good to know. Maybe I'll just take that for a spin. Just learn. This is how I'm going to start making new friends. See, now that I moved back to Rockford, I'm going to start making new friends by telling them all the crazy, horrible stories. Like, oh yeah, I looked up on the website about Rockford history, just so that I better know myself around the area. You want to hear what I found out? And then I start spewing all these terrible stories.
January 13th, 1928, a man killed 3 people, but we'll never know who the man was.
Yeah.
They're like, what
Just
the
like, yeah.
hell?
It
You're
could
like,
have
I'm
been
telling you.
Also, yeah.
It could have been a woman,
It could have been.
a man, or a woman, or them.
That's how
person.
that's how I'm gonna start making that. That's gonna be my in with somebody. I'm gonna find that's how I'm gonna find a like-minded person around these parts by just you want to find interesting Rockford history, and they're like, oh really? And I'm like, yeah. Was it about the sock monkey? No, it's not about the sock monkey. Oh, it's about Fisher's chips? No, it's not about that. It's not. Yeah, the sock monkey, like the iconic like stuffed animal. That's Rockford.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Just so you know, yeah. So nope, not about that. And then also, it's also called Screw City because they're known for I want to say, can't remember if it's the invention of the screw. A man who invented like the actual like the spiral portion, designed the spiral portion that goes onto the screw. It's from Rockford, also.
Heck yeah.
Fancy that.
Yeah, and
Oh,
it also has like a really big what do you call it? It's not infiltrate, but they somewhere in Rockford, this will be something like that I've known for a while, but I'll have to look more into it. But they're also known for like building and creating like industrial like screw parts or like parts for the army also. So it's like that's also why they're called Screw City. Because that's like they're like I think it was like in World War II or one or I don't know, one of the like somewhere, but like yeah, Rockford is like known as like Screw City because of that, and also Sock Monkey.
There we go.
And now true crime, but I'm gonna get these people with these true crime because like I'm gonna fuck all this other nonsense, and I'm just gonna start spewing like all this dirty shit, and they're like, oh, that's. I'll either get like somebody who's interested, of like, oh, that's nice, or be like, wow. I didn't know that. Let's be friends. I'm like, yeah, let's be friends. Oh yeah, by the way, I like cheese.
Just hope you don't
sprinkling that in there.
Actually, like real crazy.
Yeah, there's a lot of energy. There'll be a lot of energy that I'll be giving somebody.
Find someone who really likes true crime.
Yeah.
Make you into the true crime.
Yeah, that would kind of suck.
Bye, Kelly.
Next
We'll
episode coming
we'll
up.
We'll cover you in our next Rockford case.
Yeah, this is my threatening note to you guys. If I go missing, know that it was because I spoke to true crime somebody and they didn't like it,
or they liked it too much.
They liked it too much. I gave them too much of an inspiration.
They're like, she's my muse.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you have to meet somebody first and tell us everybody, because that note means nothing unless you have a specific person.
Well, this is just the beginning
part of it. The city of
it.
Rockford killed her. That's it.
The city of Rockford. The Rockford got me over my rock fort.
Ooh.
Damn.
I don't know. That doesn't make sense. But anyway.
Somebody dressed like a giant sock monkey.
Yeah. It's the sock monkey strangler. The Rockford strangler.
They choked her out with potato chips.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I was suffocated by the potato bag.
There we go.
Yeah.
You know, one thing about her though, if she was like, if her husband was a douche and she's like,
yeah,
why wouldn't she use her maiden name?
Right.
I don't know.
Why not why even give him credit? Unless it was just like, I can't afford to change my name back.
Yeah.
Maybe. And again, it was like back in the 30s too. So she probably Ethel was probably like, well, you left me, but I'm gonna motherfucking change these names. It's not Mr. anymore, it's Mrs.
Yeah.
And ever since then she went down, left her during the Great Depression. Like, how more depressed could she have gotten? But she did it. She rocked it. She was whipping potato chips out from her home, and then soon after they've had from the time that she made potato chips out of her home, they had one other business or one other location before they moved to the now factory that they have off of Fulton, where they have been for since the 70s, which is really cool. And I said, I just thought it was really cool because the business has always been passed on to an employee. So in the 86 years that they've been in business, there's only been like I said, four previous or four owners of the company, because they keep it within not the family but the potato chip employee family. So it's never been corporately owned, and that's again the reason why you can only buy or find these potato chips within the Rockford area. So that's really cool. It's kind of a one of a kind sort of thing. Go Ethel. She even like during the time, like she was like before they got like all these machines and like started like, you know, obviously, I don't know what you want to call it, like assembly lining it or whatever. She was actually doing everything by hand, probably up until like around the 60s, which meant like peeling and like slicing over like 100 pounds of potatoes like a day. This woman was a peeling queen. And she would even sell like the penny chips, which were like the small broken pieces or crumbs, and would offer them for like 25 cents a bag, which Fisher's still does that. So if you go to the actual like
The factory.
whatever, you can buy these penny chips, and they're just like bags of just like the broken pieces that didn't make it into the bigger bags, which I thought was cool.
It'd be good to buy those if you were like doing like kitchen sink cookies.
Yeah, something like that, or like mixing them in already, like, and you're supporting something local. Like, yeah, you could make them yourself, but it's just kind of like a little extra thing that they offer. Like, you know, most places, or like how some, you know, I think like what some like Albany like gummy worms or gummy bears, like they sell like the defects or something like that, or like the mixed flavors or whatever, like when they're changing over batches, or like I think like I can't remember if Jelly Belly does that or some sort of jelly bean does that also, and that's how maybe I'm thinking about it wrong, but somewhere in my brain I was watching like a how it's made, and some factory making jelly beans, like how they got the mixed flavors is because like when they switch over from one flavor to the other, it takes a while, like it takes a transition, and so they make that mixed bag into a crazy flavor bag or whatever. I don't know, but anyway.
Dum-Dums does it.
Yeah, here I go off of more local stuff. Local things are cool.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, really cool. Small business, local things. Anyway, that's it. Cheese bags, is it? Yeah.
Yep. Thanks for listening and watching this time.
Yeah.
You can email us if you got any questions or concerns at Gouda.Murder@gmail.com.
Yes. And then Gouda, and you could also
Facebook.
follow us on the YouTubes, which you're at right now if you're looking at us, which is what, Gouda.Murder.pod.youtube.com. How'd you find us? Yes, Gouda Murder Pod. Yep. And
Facebook.
Maddie just
Gouda
Facebook
Murder Podcast Official.
Yep.
Gouda Murder Podcast, and on Instagram with Gouda Murder Pod on Insta. Gouda Murder Pod.
Anyway, thanks for listening and stay fresh. Cheese bags.
Cheese bags.